Hello, how are you doing today? I am DeborahAcker. I am a coach who works with women looking outside of themselves, who works with women who are putting their careers, who are putting their themselves ahead, or who are putting their partners and their careers ahead of themselves. And today on Truth Talk, hi Kelly, how are you? Good to have you here. Hi, hello. So super excited to have you guys here. Today I'm going to be talking about are you worried about hurting someone's feelings? And just to introduce myself, my name is DeborahAcker, and I am a coach who works with women who are putting their careers, their partners ahead of their own needs. And so today on Truth Talk Tuesday, I think this is really an important, fun topic. But on today's topic, I want to talk about, are you worried about hurting someone's feelings? And so, does anyone that's live now, happy Tuesday, yes. Does anyone that's live now have this as something that comes up for them? I know that this definitely resonates for me at times when I'm talking to someone that either I know or someone even that I don't know. I don't want to hurt their feelings, and so then I end up being out of congruence with my own truth. Yes, all the time. Exactly. I can totally relate to that. And so, as I was starting to think about this, hi Jay, how are you? Good to have you here. So as I was starting to think about this topic and this whole topic about being worried about hurting someone else's feelings, one of the biggest things that came up for me as I was thinking about this is that sometimes it's about, really honoring, thank you so much for the hearts. Thank you for sharing. I so appreciate it. It's really about honoring our feelings and really choosing, who's going to be most important in this conversation. Because as you know, if we are out of congruence with our own truth and we're out of congruence with, with our own truth and with, basically we're worried about, okay, this is going to hurt someone else's feelings. At that, we can end up putting their feelings at the expense of our own, right? And it's definitely so important that we really choose us, that we choose our feelings, that we really, that we put our feelings first ahead of anybody else's, right? Because, if we end up saying, okay, well, you end up choosing to do something and really you don't want to do it and you weren't able to say no to it, really the person that ends up hurting most is you. So it's really about recognizing that. It's really about shifting your framework as to who am I going to honor here? Who's the most important person? And as you say yes to you, as you really choose you, as you put your feelings above all else's, the universe will show that as well, right? And so it's really important. And the thing is, it's not necessarily that it's mutually exclusive, right? You can be in congruence with somebody and not hurt their feelings and also choose you. So it's really about how, one of the pieces of, worrying about hurting someone's feeling is how do we say no, right? How do we say no in these different situations? And one of the things I will tell you in terms of how I say no is really, it's all about, I tune into myself. And so I always put it on me, right? Because my no has to do with me. It has nothing to do with the other person. And I know we get so conditioned as to, like someone saying no is a rejection of us, but really reframing this and really looking at this and really getting that someone's no is really about them, right? So if you could use that all the time, anytime you get a rejection, and recognizing like, okay, like their rejection has nothing to do with me and has everything to do with them and what's going on in their life, and in honoring themselves, they are also they're also honoring you, right? So yes, no is about them. So and it's a really great framework, right? Because then you can keep anytime, because part of what we get conditioned to is we're trying to avoid rejection, right? And so we in our avoiding rejection, we end up, we don't want to reject someone else, and then we end up, so we end up not saying we don't want to reject them, and we don't want to be rejected, right? So where's the line of selfishness and being not selfish, right? Well, what if choosing you is not about being selfish at all, right? What if choosing you is really because the thing is that like it's like the old saying, right? You know, you got to put the life vest or life the what, I forgot the name of it, but you got to put the life vest on first before you can help another. And so, you know, we kind of do get conditioned to think like, okay, like if I'm putting myself first, then I'm being selfish. And what if that's not about it at all? You know, and feel free to like chime in. Does that resonate for you? Is that something that you can definitely, you know, relate to? I would say it can be really challenging in terms of when we're saying no. How do we say no in a way that's congruent to us, but in a way that's not mean or harsh, right? And for me, I always tune into what I feel for myself, right? So I'll say something like, that doesn't feel, feel right to me, right? That doesn't feel good to me. It doesn't resonate for me. So I put it back on myself, right? So instead of saying, I don't believe in what you're doing, or something that's sort of like, you know, I look at things from the energy perspective, right? So that for me is like it's kind of the energy of blame, right? So instead of putting something like making someone else wrong for what they're choosing, I just put it back on myself, and I go ahead and I choose me and what I believe, what feels good to me. And then that way it's like nobody can really, fault you for your feelings if it's all about you, right? If you're always making it all about you, if you choose you, if you're very, specific to, this is about me. And the one thing, as I was thinking, about why I always hesitate to really, reject someone or say no is, I'm worried about that rejection, definitely about the law of attraction, and definitely about, what we're calling in and what we're bringing forth. But, as I was starting to, think about this, I was like, the other day I had a client, ask me about something, and I noticed that for me, space makes me uncomfortable, right? And so a lot of times in that effort to avoid like rejection or avoid that space, I end up creating the exact thing that I'm trying to avoid. And so really, really recognizing why are you worried about saying no? What comes up for you around that? For me, I'm like scared of that rejection, right? So I end up reflecting that back, and I end up, like I said, creating the exact thing that I want. So, if you think about it, if you tune into what comes up for you when you go to say no, and feel free, if anything comes up right now, feel free to chime in with that. But just tuning in, it's like, when you think of saying no, what comes up for you? How do you feel that in your body? Where is that in your body, right? Like for me, no is in my heart space, right? It feels really heavy. Yes, it's definitely all about tuning into it. And so no for me feels really heavy. It's in my heart, right? And so if I think about that, for me, I believe all of this stuff sort of stems from, a lot of our conditioning, a lot of our fear of like this rejection kind of stems from one moment from childhood. So yes, saying it or hearing it. Yeah, so I believe all of this stuff comes from like one moment from childhood. And so, you go back to that moment in childhood where maybe your parent said no to you about something, or maybe you were rejected in one way. And then like for me, what I'll do, I work with my clients on this, right? So I help them clear the energy around it so that they can really, not have that feeling come up, so that they can actually be true to themselves, right? And, Jay's saying here, no, no, no. And honestly, like saying that out loud and really practicing how you're going to respond in a situation to, when something comes up, it can be really, really good to have in your arsenal, that having expressed that multiple times so that it comes up naturally. And for me too, like I was out to dinner with a friend earlier this week, and it was really interesting because we were talking about religion, which religion never is like, it's kind of one of those topics, in general, I kind of stay away from it. And, something came up about an experience I had had over the holidays, and my guy friend was like, he's like, I want to know more about that. What's going on with that? And I found myself wanting to manage, my friend's emotions, because I had my guy friend's Jewish, my girlfriend's Catholic, and I found myself really wanting to I was hesitant. I was tiptoeing around what I was really believing. And so what I did, and what was really, really powerful, was stating what my truth was in that moment, right? And my truth in that moment was, you guys, like, I am like scared to say what's coming up for me because I'm worried about hurting your feelings, right? And that right there put me on level ground, with with them, right? Because it's like I shared my experience, I shared my inner world, and all of a sudden it gave me the space to share my truth, right? So I said this and they were like, oh, don't worry about it. Like, we want to hear what your honest opinion was. And that created that space. It created that vulnerability for me to actually be honest and to share my experience and share my truth. So that's one thing that that can be really, really helpful, is just sharing what's on the inside. I think that that's such a super powerful way to really express ourselves. Another thing too is just breathing, right? You know, we tend to be scared to take space, and for me, what really, really comes up around that, yes, yes. So for me, what tends to come up around this whole space thing is really this idea of just like breathing, right? So actually allowing myself to take a break, to take some deep breaths. And sometimes that means like, hey, I'm going to think about it, or can I get back to you in 24 hours? And so really, really allowing myself whatever I need in that moment to actually take that and to not worry about, oh my gosh, I'm giving them space, or oh my gosh, they're going to feel rejected if I don't say yes immediately. And, for me, that can be honestly like a conditioned response, a response that, that I like am beginning to use all the time. Like, hey, I want to think about that. And, there's something really awesome in honoring yourself when you just take space, when you just give yourself time to really think about something. And then, that way you get to choose. It's like, okay, how am I going to show up in this situation? How am I going to honor myself? How am I going to speak truth? What am I saying yes to? What am I saying no to? And, in honoring yourself, you definitely will honor whoever it is that's asking you about whatever it is that they are asking you about. So, that's what I would say in terms of like, worrying about hurting someone's feelings. First of all, it's all about prioritizing you, right? Like, if you're not honoring you, it doesn't matter, right? You're saying, if you're going to honor someone else's feelings over how you're feeling, then you're going to end up like feeling like, like if you think about the energy that you go into when you honor someone else and you're doing something you don't want to do, right? How does that feel? It doesn't feel good. Like, I know for me, it's like, I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to even be here right now. And here I am like doing something I didn't want to do because I was like worried about hurting their feelings. And, it's like, have you ever been in the company of somebody who doesn't want to be there, but is just showing up out of obligation? That ain't fun either, right? That's something that's not fun at all. So really, for like kind of re-looking at that and looking at it's like, okay, I don't want to be with somebody who doesn't want to be there. And I don't want to show up as somebody who doesn't want to be there. And so really, really just noticing and really being mindful of like, okay, wait a minute. Do I want to be here? And if I want to be here, I'm going to show up as my best self. And if I don't want to be here, it's better for both of us if I say no. Oh, thanks so much, Jay. Thank you so much. I so appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, like invite your followers. Like every Tuesday, I want to be doing these Truth Talk Tuesdays, right? So submit your questions to deb@DeborahAcker.com. For those of you guys who came on late, I am a coach. I work with women who are putting their partners, their careers ahead of themselves. And really, my firm belief on this is we all have these things that we want to attract, whether it's relationship, career, abundance, health, whatever it is. And many times we look to the outside to try to change that. And what I do is I work with the stuff that's on the inside so that you can actually shift your outer world. So that you can actually really, really shift your outer world. So really, it's all about looking. I know it's something that a lot of people don't focus on. We try to change just our physical setting, and changing that physical setting can work. But when you actually change that experience, that feeling, you end up creating a different outer experience. So thank you so much for joining me on this Truth Talk Tuesday. Like I said, if you have any questions, if you want some free live coaching, if you have a question on where you're struggling on truth, just send me an email at DeborahAcker.com, and that's also where you can sign up for my 30-minute complimentary discovery session. And then, I'm happy to help. What's your question? When will you talk about dealing with rejection? Oh, I could talk about that one next week. So, yeah, let me feel into that, and I'll take a day to think about it, and I'll put out again for next week's Truth Talk. So, yeah, just make sure you're following me on Periscope. Make sure you share that. That's a great topic, Jay. I would love, love, love to talk about how to deal with rejection. So, what's the deets? So yeah, so just following me on Periscope at DeborahAcker, which you guys are all tuned in, and every Tuesday we'll do Truth Talk Tuesday. I'm going to aim for around 5:30 Central Time. That may or may not always work, but that will be my goal. So thanks so much for you guys for tuning in, and until next time, I hope you're living a life that really truly honors you. Thanks so much.